Setting out to classify property, remember there are two basic types of property: real property and personal property. Real property consists of the interests, benefits, and rights inherent in the ownership of land, plus anything permanently attached to the land or legally defined as immovable, such as a building. Personal property consists of every kind of property that is not real property, movable without damage to itself or the real estate, such as a cash register or display case. Assessors must classify all real property according to use, as of January 1st each year, into one of the four classes of real property: residential, open space, commercial, and industrial. Real property must be classified according to use and not by zoning. As an example, assessors can classify a house located in an industrial park as residential, even if the area is zoned for industrial and the market indicated that it would most likely sell as an industrial parcel. Personal property is considered the fifth class and is treated as a separate class for the purpose of allocating the tax levy. DOR has developed a coding system for classifying various property types. This system, called the State Use Code, has a three-digit level of detail. The first digit designates the parcel's major classification. Multiple use parcels, known as mixed-use properties, begin with the number 0. Residential parcels begin with the number 1. Open space parcels begin with the number 2. Commercial parcels begin with the number 3. Industrial parcels begin with the number 4. And personal property begins with 5. Code 0 through Code 5 are the codes you will use most frequently in your work as an assessor. It is important to note, however, that there are 4 other major classification codes. Codes beginning with the digits 6, 7, and 8 represent land classified under Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B as forest, farm, and recreational land. These are all referred to as chapter lands, have special tax status, and pertain to land segmentation only. Any codes beginning with 9 are used for exempt parcels. The second digit indicates a significant category within a class. Some examples would be a residence under Major Classification Code 1, Residential, a retail store under Major Classification Code 3, Commercial, and a manufacturer under Major Classification Code 4, Industrial. The third digit identifies a subdivision of the category. Some examples would be a single-family home, a department store, or a research and development facility. Let's use Class Code 1, Residential Parcels, to look at an example of how to use the coding system. Class Code 1 is used to identify residential real property. This includes parcels containing one or more dwelling units, including rooming houses with facilities assigned and used for living, sleeping, cooking, and eating on a non-transient basis, and including a bed and breakfast home with no more than 3 rooms for rent. It also includes residential vacant land and parcels with only residential detached structures. Your code book will give you further details regarding each code. There are several indicators for the second and third digits under Class Code 1. Class Code 1, followed by a 0, or 1-0, indicates the category of properties that includes parcels with 1 or more, 1 to 3 family dwellings on a lot, a residential condominium, or a lot with only residential detached structures. The first digit 1 indicates it is a residential parcel, and the second digit 0 refers to the category of properties listed above. The third digit indicates the specific property type within the category of properties referred to by the second digit. For example, the State Use Code 101 refers specifically to a single-family home. The first digit 1 indicates a residential parcel. The second digit 0 refers to the category of properties, and the third digit 1 indicates a specific property type within that category, a single-family home. Let's look at the next State Use Code 102. The first digit 1 indicates a residential parcel. The second digit 0 refers to the same category of properties previously mentioned, and the third digit 2 indicates a specific property type within that category, a residential condominium. Let's look at one last example of the three-digit state use code 103. The first digit 1 indicates a residential parcel. The second digit 0 refers to the same category of properties previously mentioned, and the third digit 3 indicates the specific property type within that category, a mobile home. Class code 1 followed by a 1 or 11 is used to indicate that the parcel is used for apartments. The first one indicates it's a residential parcel, and the second digit 1 refers to the category of apartment buildings. The third digit indicates the type of apartment building located on the residential parcel. For example, the state use code 111 indicates it's a 4 to 8 unit apartment building. The first digit 1 indicates a residential parcel. The second digit 1 indicates that there's an apartment building on the residential parcel. The third digit 1 indicates that the apartment building has 4 to 8 units. Let's look at the next three-digit state use code 112. The first digit 1 indicates a residential parcel. The second digit 1 indicates that there's an apartment building on the residential parcel. The third digit 2 indicates that the apartment building has more than 8 units. All residential vacant land is grouped into three categories and coded with these state use codes. 130 is used for developable land. 131 is used for potentially developable land. 132 is used for undevelopable land. A 130 developable land is a lot that meets the zoning requirements and is legally buildable. An example is a subdivision lot that has yet to be built on. A 131 potentially developable land is a lot that has the potential to be built on, but may have several issues, such as topography or shape issues. A 132 undevelopable land is land that is unbuildable. Examples would include wetland and landlocked parcels. Here are two more examples from the Property Type Classification Codes book. State Use Code 342 is used to identify a medical office building in the commercial class, and State Use Code 400 is used to identify a manufacturing building under the industrial class. You don't have to memorize every code. That's just simply unrealistic. The Property Type Classification Codes book is your go-to resource in assisting you in your classification responsibilities. This resource defines each major property class, the significant categories of properties within those classes, and the specific property types within those categories. What happens if you can't find a code to represent a parcel? When the Property Type Classification Code book does not have a code for a very specific and atypical property type, assessors can create a code. When creating a code, you need to follow the Department of Revenue's three-digit state use code pattern. The first digit represents the major class. The second digit represents a significant category in that class. And the third digit represents a specific property type in that category. Be sure you create a code in the appropriate category. Any local option code should have a written criteria, clearly describing the property type, and the code should be used consistently on any similar properties. Local option codes should be created based on the use of the property. For example, a specialty office building leasing to a high-tech security company is not found in the Property Type Classification Code book. In this situation, the assessor could assign the code 345. In this example, the major class of 3 is commercial. The significant category 4 is an office building, and the specific property type in that category is designated as 5 for high-tech security. What happens if the parcel you are assessing is being used for more than one purpose, such as a store, typically major classification 3 for commercial, with apartments above, typically major classification 1 for residents? Which major classification should be used? In a case where a parcel is being used for more than one purpose, you would use major classification 0, mixed-use property. The major classification 0 mixed-use property, does not use the second digit to identify the significant category or the third digit to identify the subdivision. Rather, the second digit is used to identify the predominant use of the parcel, and the third digit represents the secondary use. This means, in the case of mixed-use properties, you will be using the major classification codes across all three digits. In order to properly code the parcel, the assessor must determine the predominant and secondary use in order to assign the second and third digit codes. There are two methods of determining this. In most cases, the predominant use of a building is determined by which use uses the most square footage. This method is referred to as the square foot method. Some communities, however, use the income value to determine the predominant use. This method is referred to as the income value method. You will need to ask which method your community is using. Let's code a parcel with a store on the first floor and apartments above. Step 1. Identify how the parcel is being used. This parcel is being used for more than one purpose. You determine the major classification to be mixed-use property and assign 0 to the first digit. Step 2. You determine the predominant and secondary uses. Let's use the square footage method to determine the predominant use. The store utilizes 700 square feet of the building, while the total of all the apartments utilizes 1,400 square feet. Therefore, you determine the parcel is predominantly residential and secondarily commercial. You would assign the second digit 1 because its predominant use is residential, the apartments, and the third digit 3 because its secondary use is commercial, the store. The full three-digit property code for this example would be 013. In this same example, if the store used 1,000 square feet and the apartments used only 800 square feet, then the full three-digit code would be 031, because the predominant use would be commercial and the secondary use would be residential. All properties must be identified with a state use code. This includes both real property and personal property. Personal property has a slightly different method for its three-digit code. Rather than identify the significant category, or second digit, in the subdivision, digit 3, personal property is usually coded according to the type of ownership. Code 501 is used to code personal property that is personally owned by individuals, partnerships, limited liability companies, and other non-incorporated entities. And Code 502 is used to code personal property that is owned by a business corporation. There are a few other designations that are worth identifying. Open space is land not held for the production of income, but is maintained in an open or natural condition, and which contributes significantly to the benefit and enjoyment of the general public. An example might be a parcel with walking paths and no structures. A parcel is not required to allow full public access in order to receive this classification. To use the open space classification, the assessors determine the criteria, within statutory definition, for classifying land as open space. There must be written criteria, and it must be uniformly applied. The assessors decide which parcels are designated as open space. Parcels that are classified as open space are taxed at the residential tax rate. All parcels designated as open space are allowed an applied discount to their taxes. This will be explained in further detail in Lesson 3, the classification hearing. Additionally, there is a section in Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B that, if accepted by the city or town, allows parcels to be taxed at the same rate as open space rates. This is a local option, and if a community accepts the open space local option for forest land, farmland, and recreation land, this land will be taxed at the same rate as the open space tax rate. Other classification of note deal with group homes. As discussed, residential homes should be classified under the major classification 1, residential. A subcategory under residential parcels is 2, non-transient group quarters. Subdivisions in this group include classifications such as 121, boarding houses, and 125, congregate housing, which includes non-transient shared living arrangements. However, facilities focusing on care and treatment under special license that generally serve a population that is more transient are classified under Major Classification 3, Commercial. Nursing homes are coded 304, and step-down care facilities, such as halfway houses, are coded 306. Care facilities are classified uniquely. They are coded according to their type of clientele. Child care facilities are considered residential and are assigned a state use code of 140. To qualify as a child care facility for classification purposes, a property must satisfy the statutory definition of a daycare center or a school-age child care program. On the other hand, adult daycare facilities are considered commercial class and are assigned a state use code of 352. As an assessor, you must assign a state use code to every property. Codes are not only required, but will provide a common language used for sorting and analyzing property data and assessment level in each class. Once all class codes are determined and property values have been finalized, the community is ready to move forward to the next step in the tax rate setting process, the classification hearing itself. Just a note, the state use codes and their descriptions are published in the Bureau of Local Assessments Property Type Classification Codes booklet. This book should be kept and used as a reference tool. Let's review what we have learned from this lesson. Assessors must classify all real property according to its use as of January 1st of each year. Personal property is treated as a separate class for the purpose of allocating the tax levy. The state use code has a 3-digit level of detail. For a specific and atypical property type, assessors can create a code as long as it follows the overall state use code pattern. The predominant use of a mixed-use parcel is determined by either the square foot method or the income value method, but the chosen method must be used consistently. Personal property is coded according to its type of ownership.